Hey everyone, this is your Ravens'Voice host, Zealous here to drop some news about the upcoming release, Armored Core Verdict Day on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Brand new highlights for this title include new story and missions, over 100 new parts including weapon arms and shields, a total of 56 maps to battle on, revamped parts with a renewed tuning and upgrading system, a setting for players to take in-game screenshots of all the action, a revamped conquest system now called World Mode, a system that will allow players and teams to earn special medals for their efforts, as well as a function for operators to control AI units. Verdict Day launches September 24th for the US and September 27th in Europe. Keep your bookmarks locked on facebook.com/armoredcore for more information and updates.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Ravens Voice. This is your co-host Tierson, and with me, as usual, is Zealous.
Hey everyone.
So this week we wanted to throw the show to you guys. We talked for way too long last week.
Oh man,
it was you and Cleric mainly. I'm gonna throw that out there. That was crap. Sorry about that. I just got an email. I forgot to shut that. Hold on just a second.
But hey. Catharsis takes some time, so.
No, but you did. You talked a lot.
All right. Fair enough.
No, but yeah. So after last week's show, which went really long, we had to split up in two parts. I think what was it overall? Like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Our total, that sounds about right. About 2 hours 15, 2 hours 19 in all.
So, we talked a lot, and I think at the end of the show I said, I want to pass this on to you guys. I want to hear your views on what we talked about, either directly on our comments or on the topic in general. And specifically, I wanted to hear what you guys thought about Armored Core 5. We did get some responses, but honestly, not as many as I thought. I'm a little disappointed in the community. I understand. In fact, we speak about it a lot last week about how, we're kind of in the dark ages for this community right now, and especially because we're at the end of Armored Core 5 and moving into Verdict Day, so things are slow right now. Even with the exhibition a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people, if they're even playing, probably not paying as much attention to the community as they usually would. So didn't get a lot of responses, but we did get some, and so we will be talking about that along with some other things. And so we'll be touching on those emails. Not a lot of forum comments. In fact, that's part of what I want to start with here. We direct you guys to go to the Armored Core Legacy forums. That's armoredcorelegacy.com, and that's because that is where our dedicated forums are. We are in the ACL Media section over there. We are affiliated with ACL in the fact that we are content developers for that website. And I am going to talk about ACL a little bit. But the reason I bring that up is because there are some issues with the forums. I did put something up in the notification section, but I did see that we have had some people sign up on the forums, but they're not using them. And we're finally getting relayed from people that they're getting an error saying that their IP is banned. We are looking to fix that problem, but if you ignore that, you should be able to post there just fine.
Yep, your registration controls as well as your login controls should still work smoothly. So if there have been any issues with that, or if that has turned anyone away from logging or posting up, feel free just to circumvent that for now.
Yeah, please feel free to come in the forums, and there's plenty of sections for you to comment on, or just comment on the show. Again, we do have a dedicated section over there. In general, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, I'm going to say more about this at the end of the show. You're definitely going to want to sign up for those forums here soon, because we will be doing a contest, and I'm going to talk more about that at the end of the show. So I'm going to make you wait for that, or you can just speed up to that. Try to find that section. I'm not going to tell you at what point we say it. So
there you go.
Yeah, I'm cheating like that. Let's see. So this week we wanted to talk about what you guys had to say about some things, and we did get some responses. Probably the funniest one this week was we got an email from somebody asking what the difference is between the show we're doing, the Raven's Voice, and Vatcast. And I'd never heard of Vatcast, and I'm assuming a lot of you haven't either. Before we started putting together the show, the pre-production before we actually started recording it, I did search around to see if there were any other podcasts that have been out in the Armored Core community, and I didn't find any. So, when somebody brought up Vatcast, I really didn't know what they were talking about, so I did a little bit of research on it. I did find it, and Vatcast was, let's see if I can think of the right word. I would say a very low production podcast. When listening to some of the segments of some of the episodes, I actually never heard a single discussion about Armored Core. Did you ever hear them even talk about Armored Core, Zell?
No, if anything, most of the notes were about the local AC community itself. For those of you that hadn't heard this noted before, Vatcast is dedicated to a specific forum, and that's one vast difference between the two things that we're doing here and what productions we're putting on. But Armored Core specifically, or the mechanics of Armored Core, those things aren't necessarily addressed. And this was especially something we found evident as we delved into it. Tierson, like you said, you did your pre-search to kind of look, and then I took a look myself to find the archive and just listened through closely to all their episodes, and I haven't managed to find anything about AC specifically.
But yeah, when somebody brought it up and they're like, well, what's the difference? Obviously, I wanted to take a look at it, and it is similar in two respects. These shows are similar in that they are both podcasts by definition, and they are both run by people who are fans of Armored Core. But that is where the similarities end completely. I know these guys, at least some of them. Some of them attended at least 3 or 4 of the previous Armored Core tournaments that I had ran. But completely different. This is an apples and oranges kind of difference. If you have not heard of Vatcast, I'll plug them. I don't care. It doesn't look like they've done any shows in a couple of years, but feel free to do a Google search and you'll find Vatcast, 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 and you should find it within the first few links that Google gives you, and take a listen, and maybe you'll like it. Personally, I didn't. Normally, I kind of like the off-color humor stuff, but I didn't stick around for too long. But I applaud the fact that we did have some people from the Armored Core community, even though they were just talking about a certain section, which was, I believe, the Armored Core Universe website. I applaud the fact that somebody took the initiative to do that. That's definitely something that this community always needs to at least celebrate a little bit. Is that people are trying to branch out, they're trying to do other things, but not my cup of tea. I don't know how you thought about Zells, but not my thing.
Not necessarily.
Okay, so it was there was definitely some raunchy content there, and I can applaud that. Again, they're doing their thing, and I know a couple of these guys, and once I realized who they were, I was not surprised by it. And again, this am I sounding a little negative? Yes, but that's because I didn't particularly enjoy it. But hey. Well, you know me, I'm no worries there. But it wasn't my thing. But again, if you guys, I definitely think you should at least check it out. Maybe you guys will like it. Maybe you can get them to start recording again. In fact, I think talking about this week's episode for Raven's Voice on the Armored Core Universe forums, I think one of them even mentioned in that thread that they should start up Vatcast again. And I'm all for it. Hey, go for it. I probably won't listen, but hey. And so, I think you said that you weren't really enjoying it too. But what was it about it that you didn't like?
I feel I can go and get that kind of content from a lot of different radio shows, or I can just go crank on the FM if I want to do it. Not that I have to go to a site like this and hear it. So, not my cup of tea. But if again, if there are those of you out there that are into just some of the off-topic humor, if you will, or just subjects that really don't have things to do with AC, might be for you. If you want something for some ambience. But
and I'm sure we'll go off topic from time to time. We're trying to stay very much on topic right now, but I'm sure there will be time when we do that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
definitely that what I heard of their episodes was, in fact, again, like I said, I never even heard anything discussed about Armored Core.
No.
So, so before we get into the emails, was there any other topics you wanted to touch?
Not as far as I know. Again, the emails we did get this week, while we didn't get an overwhelming mass number of them, we do have enough talking points, I think, to go off about them. And again, you have your surprise for the end of the show that everybody needs to hear about. We will not tell you the marker, where to go.
That's right. You're gonna like this too.
Where to look. So let's just keep the hatches battened down for now. I think just go into the main topics. We'll get to those later. Get to the rest later.
Okay, so you got the first email, and it is a doozy. That's why I gave it to you.
This is a long one.
We're gonna have we could probably do a whole show on this.
I think we could. I think you're very right on that. But our first message or first note comes from a player going by the name of Justin. He has gone over the RavensVoice content so far. He's just gone over some of the opinions that were expressed and views, and got him reflecting about the Armored Core series as far as Next Gen AC and the old era on PlayStation 2 and on PlayStation 1. This was a player that has played AC1, assuming all the way up to Last Raven, and has had a chance to check out the new titles on 360 and PS3. So I just kind of want to jump right into some of his content. He mentioned that, quote, in the back of his mind, the best game series for Armored Core was no doubt Armored Core 1 all the way up to Last Raven. And
that's kind of a cop out in my opinion. Armored Core 1 up until Last Raven. I mean, there's definitely some different generations of the AC.
There's a lot that happened in between. I mean, a lot. But going on with that, that's a very loose thought he addresses. But he ties it together with mentioning what he feels went wrong, or what was the main issue with the games, is that they should have kept the old mechanics somewhat streamlined. He specifically refers to EO cores, the way overboost worked, tuning, optional parts, extensions, Human Plus, hangared weapon storage, insides, the whole shebang. The things that we have slowly assembled over the course of Armored Core that eventually made it what it was by Last Raven. Now, like we're saying, again, it's a bit of a mouthful to say that the best part of it was AC1 through LR. Well, I mean, that's a lot of separate things in the bag. Those games each stacked on top of one another to eventually create the sum composite that was Last Raven. But as we focus on that, I do want to talk about a few of the mechanics here. And I'm going to look at cores first. We have EO, OB, and Hanger. We got Overboost introduced by Armored Core 2. That was the big addition from that game. For those of you who haven't played Armored Core, it allows an instantaneous burst of movement at the expense of draining your generator a lot faster than your normal boosting does. With Armored Core 3, we had EO cores, or Exceed Orbit, that came into play. Again, these were weapon cores of various types. You had some that were energy, you had some that were solid rounds, but they added some extra artillery to your AC and could help you out with just varying your arsenal. And finally, later on, we had Hanger cores. Hanger cores came about during the Nexus era, and they're kind of what they sound like. Essentially, they stored small arms. So if you had a handgun, if you had a small type of machine gun, you could have that inside your core, and when you purged your right arm weapon, that weapon would slide out. Or if you had a left arm weapon to purge to. So looking at these mechanics and what we have in 5. Go ahead, Tierson. You wanted to...
I was going to say, let me stop you there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot that you just touched on right there. Overboost cores, those still kind of exist. So, I mean, you can't really miss those. That basically isn't a mechanic that still exists in the game. Hangers, to an extent. I mean, obviously, we have the switching. You can switch your weapons on your left and your right side. I guess what we have in Armored Core 5 is an evolution to that. But I don't know. I would say it is a little bit different. At least in the fact that hangers were restrictive on the kind of weapons that you could put in there. And obviously, when you were looking at the three different kinds of cores, the overboost, the EOs, and the hangers, obviously, if you had a hanger, you might be able to correct me on this. Could hangers do overboost as well?
I was about to note that. Yeah, there were some cores that had both functions, namely the UL core, not all of them, aka
Right.
UL core, Nair core, they're the same thing, Atlas core, etc.
And, you and I have talked about this amongst ourselves, and I think what we both miss, and it doesn't look like we're getting it in Big Day, but maybe in the future, EO cores.
Yeah,
Those are awesome.
definitely. And the fun part about it, Cleric's always really, really passionate about these. It's just, again, what it does for your arsenal, and just giving you a weapon. In the case of energy, you had a weapon source that recharged itself, so you were never really out of ammo if you gave yourself enough time.
Well, except for later on, they did come out with the solid ammo ones, and those did not recharge.
They did. They had. That's actually what I was just about to note. The solid ones, you had machine guns primarily, from the Axe core and some of the others. But early on in Silent Line, I believe there was a core that fired linear rounds, and that was a really interesting way, I think, to kind of play with the heat mechanic and just have an extra solid type. But I want to hit on OB real quick. We're talking about how it does still exist, but what form has it taken now, and how it's kind of evolved, and what incarnation is it now? Okay, yeah, true. Overboost is not left armored core, but it's been renamed, as we know in AC5, to Glide Boost. There's also been some other big keys that have happened with it. You can't essentially do a full fly jump in the air and go off and overboost, and you also can't overboost in midair. You have to be touching a ground surface.
That's true. That is a pretty big difference.
Which is really huge. I think that's where they get the whole gliding shtick in the note from. But
right.
Again, this concept of tying OB closer into booster started with.
Hold on. I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah. Go for it.
That is not. That is technically true that you at least have to start that boost on the ground, or at least on the top of a surface. I mean, you can do that off of a building and boost in the air. So, kind of true. So, not kind of half truth on that. The mechanic to use it in the air does exist.
Yes, after you've touched off and glided off that surface. You can still be airborne and use overboost. If that's what you're getting at, of course.
That's what I'm getting at. I think that's pretty clear on that.
I don't know, man. Looking a little shady.
Yeah.
But,
I'm splitting hairs, but that's all right. You're kind of splitting hairs too.
Yeah. Hey.
So.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that. But it's still a huge contrast to. I think to what we had as far as the usage. Now, it is important to note that some of the movement mechanics still stay relatively the same, I think, across ACs. So you remember in our last show we talked a little bit about slide jumping with that in the old armored cores and what you could do with overboost, hovering just a bit over the ground to send your AC into a slide. It's still here in more of a minor form in 5, mainly for quick turning, where people use it, as you know. This is what I love about OB, at least. The faster a burst you get, the quicker you can send yourself into a turn as your momentum's going. If you cut your boosters in time and get a nice quick 180 or full 90-degree turn going. So that's been a good side of it. That's good for that really tight point maneuvering when you're within a lot of terrain or you need to turn and hit through a lot of complex structures. Great for that. In fact, we definitely didn't have that kind of control in the past. So apples and oranges. There's a few things that have been lost, a few things that have been gained with it.
Right. Yeah, but again, and I know Namco listens. Talk to From, get the EO cores back.
Indeed, please, more weapons. We need more guns. Okay,
that's right.
Please.
That's right. You can never have enough. I don't care if you have 2 on the back and 2 in our arms, and we got missiles and more. More. More.
Missiles. That would rock. That's one I hadn't seen yet. As far as for a core.
What do you mean?
As far as for a core. We've had...
I don't think that we'll ever see that.
Hey, one can dream.
I mean, they're putting them in the shoulders at this point, so I think that's as close as that's going to get. And then in the older ACs, you had rockets that shot out of your core.
Right.
So, as an inside part. So let's get back to Justin's email.
Yeah.
I think we talked a lot about the first part there.
Yeah, EO, OB, mechanics, some of the other things we have. Just a couple of other notes. I like to just take a moment to compare about mechanical translations we have here. So, we've covered cores, but what are our thoughts on Human Plus and optional parts? I want to just set just on those two for a moment.
Oh, we are going to touch this a little bit because this, like when we were last week, somebody started. I think it was Cheng stepped on the landmine of the continuity in the stories between the Armored Core games, which we immediately cut off. That in itself is another 2.5 hour Raven's Voice episode. So Humans Plus could easily be the same. Humans Plus, or what was it? Op Intensify.
Yep.
I think was. You know, I'm taking a second here because there's a lot to this. It was always fun. It was always cool. I don't think it has a place in today's Armored Core. I really don't. I don't really have much more to say on it than that without having to elaborate forever on that point. It was cool for what it was. It caused issues on the forums as far as what was fair, what was legit. And for anyone who played with a group of friends, that the same thing would happen as well. And back in the AC1 and Project Phantasma and Massive Arena days, when my friends and I used to always play together, and we had a large group that would play. I mean, these were issues that came up there, and when we had ACMM events, we would sponsor an Op Intensify event, a tournament, and those were a lot of fun. In fact, they were. I believe it was allowed in 2 different events. We would have one specifically for Op-I, and all the ACs had to use it. And then we had one where basically anything goes. Band parts were allowed. Op Intensify was allowed. Not surprising, a fair amount of people would use it, but I think a little bit surprising how many people wouldn't. Definitely around starting in the Silent Line era and moving forward, there was definitely a huge push to not support it. I've always kind of been on the fence on it. I see pros and cons of each, but I think, like I said, overall nowadays, I think Armored Core has evolved to a place where something like Humans Plus or Op-I isn't needed.
If we had Op-I today, I think the biggest thing people would point to, just because we have an absence of heat now, energy works completely differently. You have scan mode to kind of help you balance out things like that. I think people would point to cannons pretty immediately, the usage of cannons and how that would apply. Again, as an important note for those of you if you have not played Armored Core 5, cannons are very much rooted to the old school method of kneeling, like you used to do in the old ACs, to latch your AC down so you can get enough stability to fire a large weapon. The exception is the tank legs. If you're a tank, you're able to still float and have mobility while shooting cannons on the run. Arguably, that was one of the funnest points about Op-I in the past. You could strap your laser cannon or chain gun or grenade launcher, whatever, what have you, and you could go in a full flight, full overboost, and you could just let loose with any volley you wanted. It gave players a lot of freedom in terms of design choices, because you were no longer limited to quad and tank legs if you wanted to mount a large cannon. Today, though, as we're getting at, it definitely doesn't feel like it has much of a place. AC5 is so much more deliberate in its approach with the use of terrain and kind of micromanaging your energy and having more of a ground game, that the extreme flight and energy usage and the extra radar abilities, that would be nice, radar, right? That we have with Op-I just don't seem to fit as much. Even if you were to turn into an optional part, like what happened with Op Intensify in AC3, even still, it wouldn't fit. If we did get optional parts in AC5, though, I still think there's some interesting changes that could happen. I'm thinking back to we had that good old braking and extra turning speed part. I don't know if you have your sticklers out there who love their pinpoint maneuvering, but for a really fast design, that may help someone who really wants to do some hardcore close quarters work with shotguns or some other type of melee range weapon. So,
I think we commented on it last week that, where are the optional parts? It almost seems like Armored Core 5 it feels like it's missing, like it should have been there, but it's not. It's weird.
It's just sort of a gaping hole. I think we kind of had our fingers crossed that we'd see them updated or we'd see them slowly integrated or added in. I'm not sure. I doubt we're not going to be seeing those for Verdict Day.
No,
that's an obvious statement at this point. And I'm not sure with Armored Core going ahead how much of the AC5 system will keep, what we'll take away from it, or what will be reduced. That remains to be seen. So it's unsure, if anything, the way those parts will return, but I'm hoping they do. I really enjoyed using Insides ever since they were introduced. They just feel like a part of an AC that just should not leave. And bear in mind, if you think about it, if I'm correct, we've really had a total absence of optionals since next gen. I mean, we had stabilizers introduced in tuning.
There wasn't optional parts in AC4 and 4 answer.
No. You had
that doesn't surprise me considering how bad those games are.
You had
I'm surprised. I'm sorry. I'm going to completely interrupt here. I hear that there's a lot of people that love Armored Core 4 and 4 answer. Where are you guys? We drove both those games into the ground last week. Just butchered them. Nothing. I was expecting a little bit of hate email. Nothing. Come on. As that. Where are you at?
Well, we're going to assume, either there's a camp that just doesn't want to make notes about these things, or a lot of you agree. It's certainly fine too. It's AC.
I think they agree.
AC4, it did. It had a pretty wide sentiment throughout the community, so one would think.
I think most people agree. I think as time goes on, as it already is, Armored Core 4 is definitely looking at Armored Core 4 and 4 Answer are looking as the darkest days of the series and of the community. And I mean, obviously, with this podcast, we're trying to help lift things back up to a better day, because I think Armored Core 5 and I think Verdict Day deserve it. I think these are worthy games of what the community used to be, or at least some likeness of it. So I was a little surprised, though. I thought we'd hear at least from one or two fanboys, giving us the business for basically stringing up Armored Core 4 and 4 Answer and hanging them last week.
But no replying that in. Yeah. To say the least. Don't get me back into the yoke for moments again. Oof.
I'm out of tissues. You used them all up last week.
Got to restock, man. It was rough. It was rough, to say the least. But
okay, I'm sorry.
No. Hopping on another note. Justin made here. It was about the controls. The control scheme from the PS2 generation and going into current gen. There was a note about separate settings, like for the presets. You had your Type A controls, your Type B controls. One thing he echoed was he thought it would be a lot of fun if you had a setting for people that were newer to AC, okay, like introductory players, and for experience. I can't say I don't agree with the note, because Armored Core has always had a very steep learning curve. I think even in its simplest incarnations. By simplest, yes, Armored Core 4, I'm pointing at you. The control scheme has always been interesting in this game because you make use of your entire controller. I
like the word interesting you use.
Interesting. Yeah, we got to go into this one carefully. Because it's had its own unique thing. The old school ACs, strafing left and right with your shoulder buttons with L1 and R1, and looking up and down, or down and up rather, with L2 and R2. That was really foreign to a lot of players. Most people would want to map all their movement or look onto an analog stick or to the D-pad.
Well, now, in defense of that, I don't even think the analog stick was around when Armored Core first made its introduction. Remember, that was something that they added in later on.
Correct, but one thing I was mentioning, that what I'm trying to say, there were a lot of games at the time that still had analog controls, and many gamers are just used to having your look and your movement mapped to analogs and D-pad between those. The idea of having a lot of your movement mapped up top was, I think, foreign to a lot of people.
You're absolutely right. The control scheme and introducing new players to the control schemes for the Armored Core games, it being an issue is as an old of a problem as Armored Core has been around. This is just something, and I think they actually attempted, and actually in the little bit that I played Armored Core 4, I think they attempted to actually try to ease people into the control scheme for that game. This has always just been an issue, and I really don't think that is something that they're ever going to change. Armored Core is a complicated game to play at the start, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot that you can do, and there's a lot of, I think it's just always going to be that way. And honestly, that is a cop-out on my part of saying this is a problem that's probably just going to always exist, and I don't think they'll really do much about it. They don't, to the credit of FromSoftware, they don't really waste your time with a lot of that. I mean, are there some really easy missions from the start that basically are for you to learn how to control? Yes, but it is what it is, and quite frankly, I would like them to waste as little amount of time as possible teaching people how to use the controller and spend more time on other things.
Honestly, I felt like I was being spoiled when I was introduced to that tutorial in AC4. When you start up AC4, you go into a training arena, kind of like a VR room, and there's a really quick tutorial on the controls. I said, what? They're actually going to hold your hand for a moment through this? I mean...
You needed to, because, that game was so bad if they just quit. They'd just quit. They'd be done.
Oh, man. I mean, you just had an introduction handed to you, and again, they've tapered off at that again for 5. In fact, I really liked how AC5 kicked off. You didn't have a control scheme introduction. Instead, you were thrown in front of a grind blade, which really reminded me of that hard mission from Last Raven when you started off against the linear cannon.
Mm-hmm.
You see with the plus, oh goodness. But no, I'm agreeing. It doesn't necessarily belong. This is certainly a niche title that is very rewarding if you're willing to really dig into the complexities and enjoy them. And the tutorial and whatnot, in our opinion, those things really interfere with the rest of what we could have for the missions and the gameplay. So
yeah, if you're going to have a hard time with the controller for this game, that is only the beginning of your problems that you will have with this game. And we all know it's a very complicated game. There's number crunching. It's still the most personalized, customizable, and just number crunching is just the beginning. And if you're having problems with the controller, I'm sorry, I sound like kind of an asshole here. I'm sorry, but you're going to have issues throughout your entire time.
The irony here, and this is also pretty widespread, is that you have a lot of veterans, I know myself included, saying, no, don't go downward with the complexity. Increase the complexity. If anything, add things for us. That's what makes this series come alive.
I agree. And if they came to the point where they actually, and they'll never do this, it would be kind of cool, but actually I'd kind of worry about how far they go with it. But if there was a special controller needed to play Armored Core that had additional buttons,
that'd be great. That'd be great.
Hell yeah.
Oh, man.
It would do horribly. But yeah, no, I'd be all for it. But yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Oh, goodness. So I mean, there you have it. I mean, the divide between beginner and experienced. That's something that wasn't really there, I think, for 5. I think if you've played the previous ACs, you kind of know what to expect out of in mecha games. But everyone had an interesting chance when AC5 came out, because it was a real change to the core system, everything, and a chance to really just start fresh. A lot of veterans talked about this too. There were some skills, from 4-Answer and 4, and even the earlier ACs that came over, but it wasn't a direct translation by any means. I think some people were a little discouraged, saying, "Oh, what if I get into this? There's too many people that have played this game for so many years." Again, it wasn't the case.
No, don't worry about it. They're not around anymore.
No, they're gone. They are gone. They are gone. So if you are still on the fence considering Armored Core or a mecha title to get into, please make it Armored Core. We highly recommend you give this one a look.
If you decide to go Gundam instead of Armored Core, I will make fun of you a lot.
You're missing out. You're missing out. And you've got a brand new AC on the way very soon, coming right up this September. So if anything, why not? This would be the time to jump into it.
All right. So, is there anything else to that guy's wall of text?
We're almost there. We're almost there, right at the end.
Okay.
There's one last note from Justin about Verdict Day. I'm just going to do a quick quote here that Verdict Day will, quote, not be as fun as the PlayStation 1 or the PlayStation 2 games. The only thing that I have enjoyed about AC5 is that I can play online with others.
There you go.
And I think he echoes this for 4 as well, but I'm kind of wondering what's some of the other community thought on that. Are a lot of you coming into Verdict Day with this expectation that it just won't be as good as the other games, or do you have something different to say about it? You know, if
I don't agree with that at all. Look, I'm going to throw this out there at the start of this conversation. There is such a gap in time and technology between the PS1 games to now. I almost don't even think you can compare them. I think that has to be taken off the table. I couldn't even know where to start with that. Now, can you compare the AC1 games to the AC2 games? Yeah, in fact, I think there's a direct evolution between the two that is noticeable. Can you even do it between like AC2 and AC3? Yeah, but can you even compare the AC2 games with AC5? Well, I think it's a little bit closer, but at the same time, I mean, there's been a huge evolution in gameplay in general, and I'm not, I mean, I have the greatest of gaming memories when it came to Armored Core 1 and the expansions, but it's just a whole different creature now. Yeah, I don't think you can compare them.
I will kind of chime in on this one here, and I do want to ask you a bit about it too, Kirsten, about your experiences in AC1 compared to 2, that evolution. Do you feel that transition between 1 and 2, do you feel that the gameplay was a little faster in 1, or do you feel it was faster in 2, or that 2 was a little more methodical and a little slower?
Well, it's not even so much of what I think as much as what I remember. I think I remember that AC1 was a faster game.
Yeah. It's funny you say remember, because a lot of us that have been with the series a long time, we kind of have just, like a muscle memory response to this almost. It's more about how the game felt than what we thought. It's definitely something important to note. I had a similar experience that I can recall. 2 felt definitely slower and a little more methodical, and even with the advent of OB. And it's kind of funny, you're talking about an evolution here and what happened. You can almost point to a similar trend happening between 4 and 5. I mean, obviously 4 was just off the charts fast, but 5 backed off of that pace a bit, both what they did with quick boost, overboost, just AC mechanics in general, and you have a bit more of a tactical game presented here, kind of like the initial shift we had. So.
Right. No, agreed. The story for Armored Core 5 and with Verdict Day obviously coming out, the whole story of how these game mechanics and how this version of Armored Core will play out is still yet to be written. And in all honesty, looking ahead, I don't even think FromSoftware really knows where they're going to go yet. I think they're probably going to be watching at the popularity of Verdict Day to see if they continue to go with like such an emphasis on team play, such an emphasis on, one of the goals that you had building your ACs was to try to make it the perfect machine. And you're good at this, you're good at this, and if you had weak areas, everything else covered it more than enough to compensate for. And AC5 is a completely different thing from that. There's weaknesses, and you just have to accept them, and you have to hope that your emphasis, not that you're just like, oh yeah, but I built this up, and this will be so much better. Yep. You really have to hope that your gameplay, which is, I think, an advantage, or at least not an advantage, but something better with this version. You have to really compensate with gameplay and skill to try to cover those weaknesses. And you're just going to have those weaknesses though. And
definitely.
And again, that's where they go into the team play with all that.
And that's the big key here. From took a bit of the you out of things, and that's the you as in your AC alone covers all bases. Things are so much more centered on teams in Armored Core 5, and having some others around you that might be bringing a different type of weaponry in to get the job done. That just adds a whole new dynamic. And some of these situations you come into, you do an online match, and let's say you're running all KE, or, well, I think CE would be a better example, and you run into a very highly resistant design, like a Fortress Quad or something of that nature, you're going to have some maneuvering ahead of you to really work around that weapon deficit you're automatically set at. So.
Right. Well, yeah, and I mean, and that's, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago between the two of us, where, I was playing some matches with a friend of mine in AC5, and I pulled out my tank, and my tank is specifically built against defenses, and he had pulled his lightweight biped with just a couple laser machine guns, energy machine guns, and he would not have had the firepower to kill me unless he was able to kick me several times, which he just wasn't going to be able to do. It was a complete mismatch. It was such a complete mismatch, and literally there was really nothing he could do about it. I mean, and you have these extreme examples happen because the game is not built with one AC versus one AC in mind. And like I said, I think the jury's still out on this, even with FromSoftware, as to whether they're going to continue something like this. Because you look at the overall basis of what they wanted Armored Core 5 to be, and that is a big problem. It's an acceptable problem because they want it to be about team play, so you have to accept it. But is that what Armored Core should be? Should something like that be able to happen? Should I be able to make an AC that no matter what the other guy, because of what his AC is, just can't kill it?
It's still an open book. It's still a bit of an open book question. And that's something that I think won't be completely answered in Verdict Day, but I think it's a question that will continue to evolve. And on that note, that is the end of Justin's mail. I do want to take some time and get to the message you had, so we can just take some commentary on that. Go from there.
Where are we at as far as time?
As far as time, we are a bit over halfway in. Actually, we've had about 40 minutes, so let's just rock on with it.
Sweet. Well, again, Justin, thank you for the email. The next one, they have asked to remain anonymous, so I will respect. Well, who cares? I know this person. Trust me, you're not missing anything. I know who they are. Okay, so here's the email. Hey guys, do you think over weapons added to the gameplay experience of AC5, or were they just cheap gimmicks? If you enjoyed them or despised them, which was your favorite? Was one absolutely hated? So overall, we're talking about the over weapons, which I think we did talk about a little bit last week. Let's see. I'm going to say that they did add to the experience of Armored Core 5. I think they're cool. Now, the next question is, or were they just cheap gimmicks? Do I think they were cheap gimmicks? No. Do I think that they were gimmicks? Yes. I do think it is a gimmick weapon. You have got to be... And again, this is, actually where these things really come into play is in the team mechanics, where you do have other ACs that can cause a diversion while you fire up your over weapon.
I was going to say, here's where I want to come over to you for a second about this one, because you and I especially, we saw this active online. A great example of this is on Abandoned Facility when you have Legion Pulse users. And you can have the rest of a team distract the rest of the fire or the rest of another team for someone to come fully over the ridge when they're on the offense, or defense rather, and just let off a blast right in the back line. If you're quick enough and it's an unsuspected team, it's devastating. It'll catch you over and over. That's
true. I guess I'm not putting that in the equation because I find that more to be a fault of that particular weapon. Most of the other over weapons I don't think are broken in that respect. So I'm not going to fault the entire over weapons as a whole because of that. But that definitely was a problem. But I think overall, I enjoyed them. I had fun with a couple of them. Let's see, my favorite was the Giga Missile. I had a lot of fun with that. I thought they were cool, and they have their place. I think they got them just about right. With the exception of what we were just talking about there with the Legion Pulse. Generally speaking, these things they had an element of strategy to them, and they did have their place. And you definitely had to pay to use them. Your individual AC definitely paid a price to have them. So did they add? Yes. Are they gimmicky? Yes, but I wouldn't say they're all that cheap, with the exception of that example. I would say I enjoyed it. There wasn't a single one that I didn't pick up and at least play around with. So they were kind of neat in that respect. Yeah.
You know you're going to be seeing more of these appear in Verdict Day 2. Some of you who've watched the trailers we've had, you'll notice in video 2 there's a little bit of a hint at a brand new overweapon. Again, I won't tell you where. Go watch it and see if you can find it yourself. I'm sure you
That's
will.
right.
But as far as what overweapons have done for AC, I always smile when I see the title Over. The last time we saw Over added something was Boost, and that was, as we mentioned earlier, a drastic change to AC and something that really added to the gameplay. So here we have a chance to really deck out weapons here with just a massive weapon that can essentially turn the tide. And that's really what overweapons are about. What I do like about them is they put you in a frame of mind of truly one shot, one kill. If you miss this, you will heavily pay for it, and this weight will be with your AC to the rest of eternity when you explode. That's one of the biggest things about overweapons. You can't purge them. They're with you. That energy drain and that weight will remain with you the rest of the match, and maybe you'll get by with just your arm weapons or your cannon or what you have set up. Maybe that'll get you through. But when you find yourself in the pinch, you have to not only be prepared to use them, or even use them up front if it's just an aggressive activation you want, but to take as best advantage of your overweapon time as possible. Another important thing that I think really distinguishes overweapons from not being gimmicks is the fact that you have to design towards them, and by design towards them, I mean orienting your generator and your core.
Right.
If you have a very bad core and generator setup for an overweapon, you're going to put yourself in a world of hurt.
In some cases, you won't even be able to use it.
Right.
It's possible.
It's inefficient. You'll have extremely slow charge time. You'll probably bake yourself, for that matter, and burn your AP away, and it's just not worth it. So using overweapons in and of itself automatically restricts your design. There's certain cores you're going to be looking at, and there's certain generators that you'll want really nice charge out of, but you want to balance your own frame safety with. So as far as weapons I enjoyed, I loved the Giga Cannon. I had some great experiences with that on JP side when AC5 was still really fresh and coming out, and even a little bit on the NA side. An important thing to note, outside of the Giga Missile, get in a lock with that, overweapons are all manually targeted. You really have to look for your opening carefully and to pick and choose. Some, like the cannon and the missile, have an extreme splash that you can count on to catch opponents, or if you want to catch someone in the swing arc of the mass blade pile, that's something that could work out as well. But I enjoyed them. I had a lot of fun with them. One thing that's always fun is just to look at this giant weapon on your AC and its effect, and just from a pure aesthetic sense, they're just a lot of fun. One thing a lot of players didn't catch too, speaking about aesthetics, overweapons, for some of the head parts, they actually had an interaction with them. Different plates of armor would explode off, or your head would transform in some way. This was alluded to in the initial teaser, the spoiler for AC5, when we see our later RD's AC. Our opener's head completely transform when he activates the grind blade. We see this during the missions when you meet Chief on the oil base as he activates his Giga Cannon. You'll notice the front plate of the head part go flying, and it's just little fun things like that. So hopefully we get little goofy cinematics, things to make us nerd out with AC a bit more. We all love those little touches, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of that with Verdict Day.
See, I remember you explained that to me. You pointed that out to me that because I had figured that what we saw in the story missions like that was significant to those NPCs, and that didn't really have that effect on your AC when you use weapons. So that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, at least when it comes to the changes to the head and such, you can't see it because you can never turn the camera around like that. So that's kind of unfortunate, but. Well, you can in the garage mode, but you can't arm your over weapon in garage. So, at least not that I ever saw. No, I remember watching a beta video at some point where you could actually do the animations for the over weapons in the garage. It was a Japanese video.
Oh, that would have been fun.
But I've never been able to make it happen in the U.S. version. So if there is a trick to that, one of you guys can send us an email and let us know. Yeah. I could never make that happen, because that would be really cool to be able to see all those changes. Like, I know one of them takes off your whole left arm, and which actually I kind of think sucks, but whatever. I mean, you pay the price to use that weapon, right? That's what we were talking about. So.
Just sitting here, just kind of considering all this, I think one of the better ways to do it, just to arrange a test, would be to zoom with the sniper cannon in on someone doing a full activation. Again, the grind blade is the most obvious because you purge your left arm. And again, I'm sure not all the parts have this kind of reaction with the over weapon, but it would be neat to see which ones actually do interact. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to test it. Sure.
All right. Well, again, thank you for the email. See, what do we have for time here? What, about 50 minutes, 10 minutes left or so?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap it up then. I think for the most part. Let's see. A couple things I want to announce, but before I do, I want to make you wait a little bit longer. Also, is there anything else you wanted to mention?
As far as news goes or any announcements, I just want to talk a little bit about what we'll be covering going into Verdict Day. We're trying to stick very on topic here with Armored Core 5 leading into it. And some of the discussion may be on mechanics, some of it may be on the community. But if you have those concerns, or you want to send in specific things about gameplay or other things you've encountered during 5 that we have not addressed in this show yet, please throw that at us. We're dying to discuss it. We're dying to debate it. So we'd love to hear from you.
All right. Well, as I've done here in the last couple of weeks, I've got several points I'm going to make here. Let's see. Next week, we're really not sure what we're going to touch on. If you've been watching the YouTube channel, I will give an announcement typically on Sunday or Monday as far as what the next week that week's episode will be about. Right now, we're not sure because there's somebody I would like to get us to interview for next week's show, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get them yet. So, actually in the future, we're going to try to do a couple of those things leading up. But right now, for next week, I'm not sure if we're going to get them. So, you'll have to wait and see what the teaser is for this week. And hopefully we've got it all ironed out by then. Let's see. And, if we do like to hear from you guys. We think it's great. And we would like to continue to read emails and comments and such during the show. So, please, if you have any comments, questions, or if you want to take us to task on anything, we're ready for it. Bring it on. Send us an email at RavensVoiceACL@gmail.com. And let's see. So this is a good segue to go into what I teased about earlier.
Here it is.
Speaking with my boss over at ACL, he wants to do a contest giving away a copy of Verdict Day. And so, that's pretty awesome. I'm hoping that we can do at least a couple of these between ACL and Raven's Voice up until that point. So I don't have much more than that. We were tossing around some ideas as far as what we could do as far as a giveaway. But I'm sure it will require that you have a registered account at the forums. And, we will go, let you know that ahead of time, and sometime here in the next few days, hopefully we can announce something. That will definitely be announced in detail next week. But, we want people playing in Verdict Day as much as possible coming into the future here, so we're going to be giving away at least one copy, and like I said, hopefully we will be able to do a couple more here in the near future. So, excuse me. And again, to register, go to armoredcorelegacy.com. And all we have up right now is the forums. The rest of the website's almost done. We should have a lot more for you to look at, a lot more content for you here in the next 2 weeks. So, but go to the forums and register there, and look for the information on that. And
miss it.
That's definitely. Good opportunity to get a game for free. So you can't beat that. And of course, those of you that remember back in the day, I'm all about contests and giveaways and such. Those are things I used to do on a regular basis. So, let's see. I think that's it.
Right on.
We're working on a website for the Ravens Voice itself. That should be up, I'd say, by the fall, and hopefully we'll be able to do a lot with that. But besides that, I think that's it for this week. So unfortunately, not a lot of information. Kind of leave me hanging on a couple things. Next episode, what that's about, and in the contest to win a copy of Verdict Day. But So again, questions, comments, or anything, please send them in. And with that, I think that's it for this week.
Adios, people. Have a good one. Remember, sign up at ACL if you have not yet. That's emailing us at RavensVoiceACL@gmail.com. And you have a wonderful week. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you later.